Spoiler warning! Whoa, look out, it's gonna get ya! Everhood 2 is an incredibly frustrating game to review because I don't quite know what to think about it. On one hand, the gameplay is a solid step up from the first with an improved combat system, and the music and visuals are as incredible and as trippy as before. On the other hand, however, is a gigantic, incomprehensible pile of confusion that is this game's story and design that causes me a critical hit super effective stab level of psychic damage when trying to parse it in any capacity. So to save me the headache, we'll start with the good. Everhood 2 sports the same unique rhythm game combat that saved the first game from being completely designated as Undertale at home. You control your character on a Guitar Hero-esque track, either dodging, jumping over, or catching notes thrown at you. Stacking projectiles of the same color builds up a combo meter that enables different and increasingly powerful attacks, but resets to 0 if you take damage, leading to an inherent risk-reward system where the player has to decide on either using lower combo attacks for less but more reliable damage, or going for bigger attacks and greeting too hard and losing their 30-note combo out of pure hubris and never learning your lesson. Not that I would know what that's like. Different attacks can yield different properties such as lifesteal or breaking an enemy's armor, which also vary based on whatever weapon you have equipped. Up to 3 weapons can be equipped at a time and freely swapped between during battle, giving the player a bit more agency compared to the first game, allowing you to strategize and adapt to different combat encounters as you see fit. Overall, it invokes roughly the same level of flow state as the original and is an appropriate evolution of Everhood's gameplay formula. The presentation doesn't disappoint either. The visuals are trippy and colorful with the same mix of excellent sprite work and seamless integration of 3D assets that distinguish the original. Battle sequences still feature fun animations and psychedelic flourishes that, while disruptive, can be fun to look at and add a unique layer of challenge as you attempt to track your character as if you were looking through a kaleidoscope. Actually, you know what? Let's make that a thing. I'm challenging anyone out there to complete Everhood while looking through a kaleidoscope. I'm sure by the end of it, you'll be able to see as wide of a color spectrum as a mantis shrimp. More importantly, the music is just as much of a banger as ever. I can only hope some tracks will make their way into at least a few gaming YouTubers' repertoire of background music so I don't have to hear the Undertale dating music for the 1000th time during a sponsored segment. Speaking of, this video is not sponsored by the Undertale OST, making Kevin MacLeod obsolete since 2015. So, if the gameplay and presentation are as good as ever, what's the problem? Well, my problem with Everhood 2 is that it feels bloated. The game is bigger, longer, and in some ways more ambitious than the original, and it ends up making everything worse as a result. There are more encounters than the original, but many of those are repeat enemies that make the combat feel stale over time in spite of its improvements. The world offers a more diverse and abundant range of areas to explore, from produce-populated coliseums to crowded mushroom discos and even a bakery. But they're so disconnected from one another that it lacks any kind of cohesion. And the story throws so many different characters and themes at you, but never explores those characters or themes in any meaningful capacity, commonly discarding them and moving on just as they're introduced, leading to a feeling of sensory overload that grounded my brain into a paste. While the original story was cryptic yet cohesive, Everhood 2's story is chaotic and convoluted. It's all sizzle, no steak, all hat, no cattle, all ookie, no cookie. Wait, no. And all of this bloat fostered this weird sense of resentment within me. Several things within the game that I'd find funny or endearing in other contexts suddenly made me annoyed or jaded. Whether it was cameos from popular YouTubers, a blacksmith that made the wrong weapon for me twice in a row, or even finding a code to a secret room that was just a toilet. And this resentment was only exacerbated as time went on due to the game seemingly taking itself too seriously and not seriously enough at the same time. Seeing a moist, critical meme juxtaposed with being lectured by Terrence McKenna for 7 minutes with philosophical concepts that I couldn't even begin to comprehend gave me so much mental whiplash that I couldn't help but feel fatigued in the latter half of the game. And these feelings of frustration and exhaustion came to a head in a way that I couldn't believe with the ending. Are you serious right now? Unfortunately, this commitment to never constructing a cohesive narrative or meaning seems to be the entire point of Everhood 2's story. All is vanity is a line that comes up multiple times throughout the game, that this is all just for fun and that none of this matters. And after stewing on that thought for a few days, I think I can understand why the story is the way it is. I can't believe I'm using this as an example in a video, but does anyone else remember that viral Mario philosophy essay from a few years back? If you haven't, you can pause the screen here and read because, quite frankly, it's a flawless shitpost. Anyway, after this post went viral, there were a bunch of comments from people asking to see the rest of the essay. So much so that the creator of the post, Phil Jameson, created an entire video explaining why he would not be posting a follow-up to the Mario essay. The video itself is worth watching, but to summarize, Phil explains how, while he understands the desire to have more of something we deeply enjoy, it's not always wise to act upon the urge to make a sequel to that thing. A sequel arguably carries the promise of offering a similar experience or invoking a similar feeling to that of the original, and sometimes that's simply a task that isn't possible for some media or artwork. Or in some cases, a sequel can actually diminish the impact of the original. Just ask George Lucas about midichlorians or Jar Jar Binks. It's why most of the negative feedback to Everhood 2, including my own, usually center around comparing it to its predecessor. Sequels tend to have certain innate expectations set by the audience, and the game seems to go out of its way to subvert those expectations, even if it's to that audience's detriment. This isn't to say that all sequels are inherently bad, or that a follow-up to a game like Everhood is impossible, but there is something to be said about the arbitrary constraints we place upon sequels through our own expectations, and I think it's worth examining those expectations, why we have them, and if it's a reasonable ask for a sequel to deliver on those expectations. Are sequels obligated to abide by expectations set by its audience? I'm not sure. Is recapturing the magic of the original Everhood necessary or even possible? I don't know. Can Lance the lifeguard see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
It's got, tannines?
This isn't me trying to excuse Everhood 2's shortcomings. A disjointed, incomprehensible, and ultimately forgettable story isn't excused simply because I believe it's that way on purpose. But I still find it interesting to examine and attempt to rationalize even if I didn't particularly enjoy it. As I said before, I think the gameplay is a noteworthy improvement over its predecessor. The post-game arena, as well as Steam Workshop support for custom worlds, gives the game a lot of potential replay value. But obviously, a lot of people, including myself, were disappointed in Everhood 2's failure to recapture the magic that engrossed us from the first game. Whether or not it was under any kind of obligation to do so is up to the individual. And in my case, all I know is that the original Everhood left me feeling emotionally warm and fulfilled, while Everhood 2 made me feel fatigued and empty. And the presence or absence of intention will not change that truth. Also, if you look like this, please DM me immediately.